Next on Currents News, the young lives lost. We're learning more about the victims of Wednesday's California bar rampage.
He attacked me. He attacked his high school track coach. Who does that?
The former track coach of the shooter is speaking out about what she says happened years ago. Extending a hand to the immigrant community, Xaverian High School students talk about their new Spanish Honor Society. Plus, we're hearing from the caretakers accused of starting a toddler fight club. The news starts right now. A sea of candles representing the lives that were snuffed out during a shooting rampage at a Southern California bar on Wednesday. Good evening, everyone. I'm Liz Faublas. The tight-knit community of Thousand Oaks is paying tribute to the victims who were gunned down and killed at a popular bar. This as investigators release new information about the shooter and work to determine what triggered the bloody rampage. Paul Verkaman has the latest.
A moving tribute as a community bands together to remember 11 lives cut short.
I realized I don't know how I survived that, because at any moment I could have been shot.
Authorities have now identified 6 of the victims who were gunned down during college night at the Borderline Bar and Grill in Thousand Oaks. It includes Ron Hellis, a Ventura County Sheriff's deputy being called a hero. He was hoping to retire soon after 29 years with the county. Church volunteer Noel Sparks was also killed, along with Marine Corps vet Dan Manrique, 23-year-old Justin Meek, college student Elena Housley, and 22-year-old Cody Kaufman.
He stood up and he said to us, "Get out." He's one of the reasons that I'm here right now. He will always be my hero, and now he's my angel.
We're also learning new details about the man authorities say carried out the massacre. Investigators say this 28-year-old former Marine walked inside the popular bar wearing a black trench coat and sunglasses. Authorities say he was armed with a handgun fitted with an extended magazine and opened fire. He was found dead inside.
It's just a miracle that I got out with all my friends alive.
That was Paul Verkaman reporting. Though many may be surprised by Ian David Long's shooting rampage, one woman is saying she always knew something was off with the former Marine. Currents News' Michelle Powers has more on that.
I turned on the news, I was watching it, and when they said the name, my jaw just dropped.
Ian David Long is a name this former high school coach hadn't heard in a long time, but it's one she never forgot.
He attacked me. He attacked his high school track coach. Who does that?
For this former Newbury Park High School track coach, the last 2 days have been full of emotions, from sadness to guilt, because she never filed charges against Long after she says he assaulted her his senior year. Dominique Colell says it happened during practice when someone found a phone and she was trying to figure out who it belonged to.
Ian came up and started screaming at me that that was his phone. He just started grabbing me. He groped my butt, he groped my stomach, he went around me, I pushed him off me, and I said, "I'm not giving you the cell phone, get off." And I said, "You know what, for that, you're off the team."
But Colell says she was encouraged by other coaches in the school to accept an apology and not ruin his future in the Marine Corps.
I should have reported it.
And although she never would have predicted this, Colell says she doesn't believe this is just a case of PTSD. She says Long had issues long before he was ever a Marine.
There are hundreds of thousands of people with PTSD. They don't go around shooting people. This kid was mentally disturbed in high school, and there were signs, and the administration knew it.
Michelle Powers, Currents News.
California officials are concerned about 3 quickly expanding wildfires burning across the state: the Camp Fire in Northern California and the Woolsey and Hill fires in Southern California. Omar Jimenez is in the LA community of Calabasas with this report.
We are literally in a statewide red flag weather warning. Fire weather conditions are extreme, and we are seeing it from literally border to border.
While there are several wildfires burning across the state of California, officials are most worried about 3.
Obviously, California is a very large state, and we've got all hands on deck.
In the north, the Camp Fire forced more than 50,000 people from their homes, some with only moments to spare.
Minutes. Everything was ignited By the time I got out of my house, it was like everything was on fire.
It's already burned 70,000 acres, and firefighters expect it to continue to grow.
When the campfire started yesterday morning, it was immediately met with over 40-mile-an-hour winds. That fire, from the second it started, was off to the races.
Officials say at least 5 people have died as a result of the fire. And in Southern California, strong Santa Ana winds are fueling the Hill and Woolsey fires, which have forced more than 100,000 people from their homes.
The Woolsey fire burned very rapidly overnight, crossing Highway 101 in Ventura County, and is burning in a trajectory towards the Pacific coast.
Officials say they have a long fight ahead of them and that more evacuations could be necessary.
We need the public to continue to listen to the message, pay attention to evacuation information, follow very closely all of the public safety social media.
In Southern California, Omar Jimenez, Currents News.
The whereabouts of 4 Catholic priests in China are unknown tonight after they were taken into police custody. The underground priests worked in China's Hebei province, an area that has seen much destruction and desecration of Catholic churches. The priests were taken into custody after they refused to join the Patriotic Association, which aims to create a church independent of the Holy See. People who were sexually abused by priests now have a new avenue for justice in settlement funds being set up by the Roman Catholic Diocese in Pennsylvania. The model is similar to those already in motion throughout many dioceses in the United States. The Survivors Compensation Program will begin providing financial resources and other assistance to abuse survivors in January of next year. In statements, the diocese says the money will come from borrowing, property sales, investments, and insurers. A federal appeals court has ruled that President Trump cannot immediately end DACA, the program that shields from deportation young undocumented immigrants who were brought to the country as children. The decision was unanimous and decided by the U.S. Court of Appeals, making it more likely that the case will go to the Supreme Court. The DACA program began in 2012 and has protected nearly 700,000 people brought to this country as children. In Brooklyn, honor students at Xaverian High School were inducted into the school's first ever Spanish Honor Society. Now the multi-ethnic group of students wants to use the special recognition to help immigrant communities. Currents News' Tim Harfman reports.
60 students were inducted into the first ever Spanish Honor Society at Xaverian High School in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. It's the only chapter of its kind among 9 Catholic high schools in Brooklyn. The students want to use the honor to help immigrants.
It helps Xaverian be more culturally enriched, culturally diverse. So we learn more about the Spanish, not just the Spanish language, but the Spanish culture. And we're going to do different volunteer projects around the Latino community to help educate ourselves.
But while these students are learning about language and culture, the hot button topic of immigration is on their minds. Vang Chi Lee is the daughter of Vietnamese immigrants. Her father escaped the Vietnam War by boat. She understands what many immigrants face.
They're fleeing violence, so they need to come here in the same way. They're just looking for safety and better opportunities.
To be inducted, students need to have a high grade point average and excel in Spanish language class. Tara McLaughlin is a junior and the chapter's vice president.
I'm learning a lot more about the world and how it's affected by our diversity, and I get to see other people's perspectives.
Tara's grandparents immigrated to the U.S. from Ireland. She says while they had the opportunity to live the American dream, it's hard for her to watch others struggle.
I don't get to experience the discrimination that they face in our world today, and by learning more about their culture, it allows me to see their perspective.
We just want to build a community and support. So we stand behind the Hispanic community and all the issues that they face.
A society looking to expand their faith and culture in order to understand other immigrants. In Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, Tim Harfman, Currents News.
There's a lot more news headed your way. Brutal battles between young kids, all caught on camera. Now authorities not pulling any punches with the 2 daycare workers who kicked off the Kitty Fight Club. Students at the Mary Lewis Academy, overwhelmed by the pressures of social media, learn ways to unplug and unwind. And in this week's Into the Deep, Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio tells Ed Wilkinson what it takes to be a faithful missionary. And an important programming note for you, Currents News will be moving to new time slots. Starting Monday, December 3rd, the news will air a half hour earlier at 7 p.m. right here on NET. Reruns will air at 10 p.m. and then the next morning again at 7:30 a.m. So mark your calendars. We'll be right back. It is shocking video. A toddler fight club caught on camera while the adults cheer them on. The two Missouri daycare workers have been fired from their jobs and face charges. Their police interrogation was also recorded, but in this video, they weren't cheering.
I wanted to hurt a kid. My kid was in there too.
On December 7th, 2016 at 11:30 p.m., St. Louis police brought in Tanae Daly in handcuffs. She is the woman seen here jumping up and down during the fights, much more subdued in her police interview.
He was crying, and we were trying to comfort him, and we was trying to cheer him on.
She says she didn't think it was wrong until it was all over.
It was all fun and games, you know, and I'm sorry, like, for them, you know, to think that I hurt a kid. You good?
A week later, December 15th at 1:30 p.m., police interviewed Michaela Gilliford. She was the one you could see saying something to a crying child and then preparing preschoolers for the next fight.
I probably should get a lawyer.
Gilliford called relatives to say she was not going to talk to police, but then said this.
Because there was nothing dangerous with the kids. Like, it was all a safe stress relief. Like, you know, I just feel like it would have been avoided if she would have just closed this thing.
She was referring to the fact the daycare's heater was broken and the teachers had to use an alternate room without the usual supplies and activities. Some of the kids appeared to recognize the fight club was wrong, like one child who tried breaking up a fight and a 10-year-old in the next room who texted his mom this: "The daycare is making my brother's class fight and he's crying."
I am so very thankful that my 10-year-old realized that it was wrong.
Nicole Marcial said she's been fighting for criminal charges since that day in December 2016. Today, she got action.
It makes me happy. That's exactly what we were hoping. That's the reason why we brought this to the media. We were wanting them to take a second look at this because I don't feel like there was any punishment.
Both women, now former daycare employees, are charged with endangering the welfare of a child. Pope Francis's foundation is now fighting cyberbullying, the Holy Father recently speaking about how damaging the act of bullying can be.
Fate la promessa al Signore di mai fare questo e mai permettere che si faccia nel vostro collegio, nella vostra scuola, nel vostro quartiere. Capito?
The Pope's Foundation is partnering with the Carolina Foundation, started by a man whose daughter committed suicide after being bullied online. The foundations will do extensive research on bullying to study its different manifestations and how to prevent it. The results will be presented during a news conference in April. In the Diocese of Brooklyn, Catholics are committed to sharing God's love. The faithful have gone all over the world as missionaries, spreading the good news wherever they go. Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio joins Ed Wilkinson to talk about what it takes to be a missionary in this week's Into the Deep. Ed.
Liz, a couple of weeks ago we celebrated Mission Sunday, and I want to talk to Bishop DiMarzio today about what it takes to be a missionary in today's world. You know, Bishop, when I was a kid, I remember they said, you probably won't have to give up your life because of your faith. But today, people who become missionaries, they may have to give up their life. It's different being a missionary today, isn't it?
It's still very dangerous. We every year, the Holy See states how many people died as missionaries. And it's been in the hundreds, over 100 each year recently. So that's a lot of people basically, you know, becoming martyrs in different places in the world. Because they're evangelizing, they're trying to bring the message of Christ to the world, and there's resistance from sometimes other religions, sometimes from terrorists. You know, it's so many different things that happen. There's no one reason, but it is a dangerous vocation.
The concept of what it means to be a missionary has changed a lot. And when we were younger, we used to think, well, a missionary goes to convert people to become Catholics. Today, that's not so much the concept that we have, right?
Well, still, conversion is the goal. Well, we're not forcing it. We're not trying to proselytize. We're trying to offer the faith to others. We recognize the good in all religions, but some people have no religion. People are, for example, I had a bishop from India visit last week. I think you had him here on the program, where they're tribal people. They were animists. They worshiped the sun, the moon, things like that, because there was a need for spirituality. But once Christianity is explained to them, and Christ, who was a real person, who was God, they're flocking to the faith. So again, it's different every place.
Yeah, I was reading about Bishop Ford, and he was so excited to become a missionary. You know, he was caught up in the adventure of being a missionary and going to an exotic land. Can those things still move young people today to become missionaries? Or young people today seem to be more laid back and more placid?
Well, that's true. It's a different mentality that today. The missionary imperative in the past was very critical, because perhaps our theology changed a bit. It didn't help the missionary effort when we recognized that other people can be saved if they're sincere in their religion. But that shouldn't stop us from saying we have the revelation of God. This is better than any other religion. Unfortunately, we have to say it's better because it's God's revelation to us. The God is man, so we have the best. And why not give the best to people and let them stay in second best or something, you know?
Bishop Ford had a very interesting approach to being a missionary, because instead of imposing a Western culture on other people, he felt that it was best to learn and become enculturated and to have them do their own work. How is that different? How is that? That was really revolutionary at the time for Bishop Ford.
Well, in a certain sense, it wasn't revolutionary, because when Matteo Ricci went to China, that's what he did. He enculturated the faith, and it was rejected at that time. But we've learned since then that you do need to enculturate the faith. All the faith has to deal with the culture in which it happens, so that we're not trying to destroy anybody's culture, but we're trying to enhance it with our Christian faith and use the elements that are good, that can be adapted to the faith. And that's what Bishop Ford did, and that's what missionaries today do also.
Yeah. How can we as a diocese help missionaries? I mean, they come here and they make appeals. Is that
well, we do help through the propagation of the faith. We have our annual mission collection, which is separate, where we do give money directly to missionaries and missionary dioceses. And you have to pray. You have to pray for the missionaries, and they recognize they're representing us. We all have a missionary vocation that comes with our baptism, and praying for them and monetarily helping them is what we're supposed to do.
Good. Bishop, thank you so much. Liz, it's still an adventure being a missionary. I'm coming back to you.
All right, thank you, Ed, and thank you, Bishop DiMarzio. Still to come on Currents News, students at the Mary Lewis Academy in Queens say the power of social media makes the pressure to be perfect a constant battle. Next, what the school is doing to help. And when it comes to giving back this Thanksgiving, these fourth graders in Park Slope have got it all in the bag. Social media devices are taking up more time and causing more stress. Currents News' Michelle Powers reports on young women feeling pressures and what a Catholic school is doing to help.
Clutched in the hand of nearly every teen is a smartphone, buzzing, beeping, and blinking with notifications.
Adults and my parents, they didn't grow up with it, so they don't really know about this pressure.
Just a freshman, Caitlin Chesley says her anxiety is debilitating.
I try to post pictures of myself.
One of the biggest causes, her generation's version of a diary, social media.
You see these photos every day. It's like, this is what a female should look like.
Perfect lighting in all their pictures.
Instagram models and Snapchat sex symbols flood the feeds of most high school girls. Females posing, filtering, and even photoshopping themselves to complete a look that's both unbelievably pleasing and unnatural.
I wish that I was so comfortable to the point where I could just have a free feed, a free Instagram.
But that's not the case for Ashley Jordan Matthews. She won't post a picture of herself unfiltered. In fact, she hardly posts any pictures at all.
My chest would feel tight and stuff like that, and I like breathe heavy.
Ashley's first panic attack in middle school was spurred by not fitting in with that idea of perfection. She's not the only one. Researchers say people who spend more time on social media are more likely to be sad or depressed, especially teenage girls. They're twice as likely to have anxiety over the technology than boys.
So mine are kind of green, and then I started doing blue.
It's a trend their school psychologist, Christina Sama Balmerito, notices, but she says the device is perpetually attached to their hand, and all of its addictions are only part of the problem.
Expectations that maybe families have for their children, or just the children themselves, are becoming more perfectionists.
In an age of unprecedented girl power, Christina says young women are striving for everything and anything, to the point of obsessing over the slightest setbacks or mistakes, literally trying to make every version, every image of themselves, online and off, perfection.
Because I'm like first generation, so like even more pressure from like my parents, you know, and then, like making sure like I don't disappoint them, or like just doing everything right.
It's a lot of self-pressure just to kind of be the best person I can possibly be.
These ladies feel pressure to be it all because they can. That striving for greatness impresses their principal.
Pressures of society are there, and we're not going backwards. So I think the idea is to empower ourselves to deal with them.
Now sit quietly for a moment.
That's why the Mary Lewis Academy students now meditate over the public address system, once a week, school-wide, for 10 minutes.
Now is when they learn how to kind of build a toolkit on how to handle certain experiences that they're going to deal with in life.
Students say the silence and breathing techniques are working, helping to reduce their stress, improve their mental health, and put down their phones.
Just sitting there and kind of just letting it all go and having like 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes to myself.
The exercises aim to help the girls appreciate all they have already accomplished and prepare them to take on their next battle.
And above all, you are loved.
Remembering they are enough, not as social media models, but as children of God.
To know when there is pressure, to then go inside and find that place of quiet, to find that place of empowerment, to find that place that says we are loved.
With that, no obstacle is too big. In Jamaica Estates, Michelle Powers, Currents News.
Students at a Park Slope school are making Thanksgiving special for those in need. The fourth graders from PS 107 colored Thanksgiving-themed bags for God's Love We Deliver, a nonprofit that provides meals for adults and children with serious illnesses across the tri-state area. The kids say they worked hard on their creations because they understand how important the meals are to those in need.
A Thanksgiving meal with mashed potatoes, gravy, stuffing, and a pumpkin pie and chicken.
If there wasn't God's Love We Deliver, then they wouldn't have hope.
God's Love We Deliver will home deliver over 5,000 healthy holiday meals with the help of more than 1,000 volunteers. And that is Currents News. I'm Liz Faublas. Just a reminder that Currents News is moving to a new time slot starting Monday, December 3rd. The news will air at 7 p.m. And as always, thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news, and I hope to see you again next time.